Well, we're all back once again. It's a nice little live stream day on this beautiful Monday morning. It's nice and bright and sunny outside, and we got some beautiful TA to be looking at today. Well, maybe not so beautiful for everyone else, but Bitcoin seems almost like it's guaranteed here to try another little swipey swipe at the lows. There are several things going on. In the short term, actually, I think today is going to be kind of more of a short-term time frame analysis day just because more interesting things are going on there. But ultimately, things generally, I do expect over the next couple of weeks are going to be kind of boring, to be honest with you. No more big, massive moves, probably a sideways range. But it's one of those chop ranges where I think a lot of people are going to get absolutely fucking murdered on because that's typically what happens. Why? Because everyone wants to see, and naturally, everyone wants to see, mega massive moves, whether it be to the upside or the downside. Just mega massive moves are where all the fun action is. But when we're looking at this, I really do think that Bitcoin is going to set into one of these sideways chop ranges. We're going to see some downside most likely. Probably a bit of a trap attempt to the upside as well. But ultimately, it is, I think, boring times if you're looking for the big moves. If you're on the short-term time frames and trading those up, looking for range plays, I think this is probably your best environment right now, actually. And there's going to be plenty of opportunities for you. But for the people, again, who are looking for those big trending trades, not sure that this is it right here. In fact, I saw a really, really good comment earlier from Mr. Craden C. Always good to see you, my man. Always good to see you. He said, all shorts right now are late. If you shorted under, if you shorted under 119, you are late to the party. And yes, that's exactly what we were saying last week. Hey, 119, we moved, first it started off at about 118, then we moved up to 119 by the end of the week. Said, hey, as long as Bitcoin's above 119, yes, there's some hopium here for, I guess, a big move to the upside. However, the second that Bitcoin really starts to come back down below 119, expect a big move to the downside, at least like low 110s. And Bitcoin, came all the way down to fucking 105, depending on your exchange. Anyways, many things to be speaking about, which we'll get into a little bit later on. Gallo says, GM, sir, what's up, man? I'm tired of this market. Is it over? Is it over? Or is it all over? Well, if you're still in Dogcoin, it's probably all over for you, sir, because there was no bull market to begin with, sir. You can't kill what was never alive. And you know what? I was watching an amazing document last night with Elsa. That's how Elsa calls documentaries. She says, let's watch a document. And it was on these, they're basically like pseudo churches that promise you prosperity. I think they're called prosperity churches. And they promise you that you will have basically everything that you want in life and more. Basically riches, health, wealth, everything, of that sort, if you basically just give the church your money. And they were saying crazy shit. I've never seen this before in my life, although I have seen some of these guys every once in a while on TV. I've never actually looked into it, but it was basically give us your money and you will get 10x in return. It's like a fucking crypto scam coin is what it really was. I'm like, holy shit, these are the same people who are getting caught up in this in the crypto scams. This is fucking Gallo. Oh God, Gallo needs to be aware. He needs to be aware. The fucking prosperity church is out to get him. Sorry, man. I only do this with Gallo because I know that he can take it. I know that he is a normal person and likes to joke around. But yeah, man. But honestly, that is the way that I really do look at shitcoins. You're getting promised all these things that are just super unlikely to ever happen. And what is and what are you being asked for? Just give us your money. Just give us your money. We're gonna cure your blindness, and you're going to get 10x in return. Amazing. Fucking amazing. But yeah, man, you got to check these out. I forget what channel was that. Elsa, do you remember? I think it's one of those channels that you watch a lot. I think it was Tyler Oliveira or something Oliveira. Yeah, something like that. He's just like a normal dude. He goes around doing kind of on the ground sort of interviews and whatnot. And it was extremely entertaining, but also extremely fucked up. People are born into these. They're not even churches though, because nothing that they're doing is at least from what I understand about it, especially Christianity is correct, but they basically have co-opted it to serve their purposes, which is you give us your money and we give you nothing in return. But if you don't get what you wanted in return, it is actually because you just didn't believe enough. You just didn't believe enough. That's your true sin, is you didn't believe enough and you didn't give enough money. Therefore, I'm sorry, sir, but you will be blind. You will have to deal with your AIDS. You will have to deal with your leprosy. You will have to deal with any sort of disease that you have, and also your financial rectum as well. Very fucking bad, man. What's up? What other document did we watch last night? Oh, the furry one. Yeah, we watched a document on furries last night too. That was It's actually pretty interesting, man. I honestly, I don't know if I feel that bad for those people. They seem to be quite happy, but they just seem like they're, I don't know, dealing with some other issues perhaps. Anyways, yeah. What's a bigger scam, Solana or religion? Probably Solana, man, because at least religion gives you like some. Honestly, if you read the religious texts, like the big ones, like the Jewish one, like the Islam one, like the Christianity one, all of it to me is just like one massive self-help book, which is cool. Like I think that's fine. I mean, yeah, there's some stuff in there that obviously no one would agree with for all of those major texts, but has Solana saved anyone? I mean, I don't know, man. It probably made a few people quite rich for sure. Probably also hurt a lot of people as well. But yeah, I would say at least the positive aspects of religion, I would hope would supersede that, especially over time. I mean, for fuck's sake, like for those things to last as long as they have to have been providing value to someone. Solana's only been around for a few years and it's not really provided much value to anyone, at least from what I understand. Anyways, what's up, Tristan Toff? Been a while, man. Nothing is free, only Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not free, actually. Bitcoin is definitely not free, but I do believe that Bitcoin is just the most, I don't know, it's most tried and true of all of the cryptocurrencies. And really, it's, I kind of went on a rant about this last time, but it's really should not be considered in the same basket as all the other things that we look at in the crypto space, because most of the things in the crypto space, what they are really is just tech startup companies, and that's fine. But they have a much higher probability to fail, and they are companies. Bitcoin as itself is more or less a commodity, similar to gold, similar to silver, similar to these sort of things. And in my opinion, it's a rather well-designed commodity, for the purposes that you actually want a commodity for, especially something that you're going to be using to more or less store wealth in. That is nothing new, and I'm not bringing up any sort of amazing concepts or certainly no unique thoughts in that statement. But yeah, that is what I believe, at least as of this moment. I'm happy to change my mind in the future if things do indeed change. But for right now, I think that Bitcoin acts very, very well in that capacity, and it makes a lot of sense to me. To me, it just seems like a better wealth storing asset than something like gold. But hey, who knows what the next few years will bring? Maybe it will be destroyed all in one go. You will find peace with Hinduism. Well, I actually do think a lot of the Eastern philosophies are actually super interesting as well. I've actually gotten a lot of value out of those. I like to read all of the texts though, because all of them have at least something. They all have at least something that is quite valuable and quite useful. What's up, Bear Nutrition? Any news? And what's up, Mr. Peter Underwood? BitConnect, indeed, man, indeed. In fact, I bet you BitConnect is still, if Hex is still around, BitConnect is still around. Probably a lot of the same people in both of them as well. Foxco Tor, good morning to you, man, and good to see you as well. Goobtron, yo, Humanoid says, so Solana isn't going to $1,000. I mean, it very well may over a long enough period of time, but the jury's still out as far as I'm concerned with something like Solana. If you've only been around for a couple cycles and you've not really made significantly new all-time highs from cycle to cycle, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, this is totally legit. But it still has a chance. It's done certainly better than most things, and it has made a new high this cycle, just not like anything super impressive. So, if it hasn't outpaced Bitcoin, if it hasn't outdone Bitcoin, I really don't care about things. They haven't really proven themselves, at least in my opinion. Again, everyone's free to their own opinions on that. That's why you can go ahead and invest all of your fucking hard-earned money into your highly esteemed shitcoin technology. But hey, that's for you to do if you want to do it. And who knows? Some of them are going to be successful over a long period of time, like massively successful. So we shall see, man. We shall see. T-Bass says, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. And also give me your money. Sorry, man. Can't help it. That was a great document, though. But yeah, man, people using that, in really, really awful ways, to be honest, man. Can do TA on Terra Luna. I mean, we can look at Terra Luna. The TA will tell you that it is a downtrend, and anything else on top of that is probably not that relevant, to be honest. His grandson might see Solana at 100, perhaps. I think you probably meant 1,000, Mr. Edgar Silva, but all good. What's up, Brick Loose? Been a long time, man. Indeed, it is a good day. Indeed, it is a good day, my man. Yeah, vote for me and you can live forever after you die. Exactly. Sounds like a good pitch for a politician. Vote for me. I will make sure that you live for forever. How do I plan to do that? I don't fucking know. But if you vote for me, you will literally live forever. You will literally live forever. Kijo's dad says, are you eyeing any quantum computer stocks like Qubit? No, I don't. I probably should, but I quite like where I'm at with my stocks and my stonks. and my indices. In fact, let's go take a look at traditional markets right now, see what NASDAQ and SPY futures are looking like coming into another 10 minutes into market open. And honestly, you know, these things, I do think I put in a major low right here. We spoke about that over the weekend and on Monday, and next move should be a bounce. We're getting that bounce. But here is the thing. If this thing is going to fail and falter, actually, it's right around the 618 right now. You know, I'd really be expecting it to happen somewhere around here, like a little bit higher than where it's at right now. Let's say maybe between 25 even to 25 150, somewhere in that pocket there, if it is going to fail and have a bull trap. But you know, shit, man, if we see it close into this region by the end of today, or especially hold this region by the end of the week, I'm going to be looking at this as correction already over. And, you know, that's just been kind of the flavor of the last year or two, where we just get these really, really significant flash corrections and then just continues trudging up and to the right. That's why I really don't like being bearish on traditional markets, man. SPY futures, more or less same shit. This one looking definitely like it has the potential for a trap here, though. Again, if it is going to be rejected and turned down, I would really be expecting it to happen kind of where it's about at right here, anywhere below about 67.55 or so. That also does imply if it starts to really, you know, close within this region and maintain it by end of week, I would go as far to say, yeah, correction likely over. Now, Bitcoin does look objectively different. It looks like it's almost undoubtedly going to be retesting around the lows. You know, when I go back on over here, especially to the lower term timeframes, you know, Bitcoin is within the context of a bit of a downtrend. You know, when we go to timeframes underneath the daily, to be fair though, the daily is actually not in a downtrend just yet. We still have higher lows compared to the late September lows right here, which were about 109 on a closing basis. Even on Friday, which Bitcoin traded well below that number, it did not close below that number, instead closing around about 111 or so. So still actually has higher lows on that, you know, on that trajectory. And while I do think that Bitcoin has some short-term downside here, and while I do think it's likely to test maybe even around that 200 simple again, I just don't think it's ready to break down or anything like that. You know, even if Bitcoin does break down later on, I think that you are very, very likely, in fact, to get a bull trap first. So what would that look like? You know, you get a move down here, then big bounce. Maybe that happens like in the next 7 to 14 days. And then that bounce fades out somewhere below about 119 or 120. If we see something like that, big rejection right there, that's where I'd actually get quite concerned for a real try to the downside, you know, like a real try to the downside below these current range lows. Let's just call it like 107. But until that happens, you know, I do think that this is a chop range, and I think that a lot of people are going to be really fucking annoyed by this, because think about it, when Bitcoin comes back, if and when Bitcoin does come back down below about 110, which I think it very likely will, you know, and I do think it's going to bounce relatively soon after that, you're probably going to see a lot of people get super, super bearish again and be calling for, you know, 90,000, 80,000, 20,000, because that's also, you know, a super bearish target as well. But ultimately, I think you're a lot more likely to bounce off this region yet again. And if it really is going to be bearish, I'd be expecting, you know, a bull trap first and then straight down. That's your traditional way of doing things. And just about any sort of a major market reversal will happen with those two pieces in place. You always need a beautiful bull trap, and it can come in many different forms, but I'll show you a great example of it back from 2018. This is just about picture perfect as it gets. And you can see Bitcoin having this first push to the downside. Boom. This was in late December after Bitcoin put in the all-time high. It had a nearly 50% drop off, I believe. Yeah, nearly 50% drop off, 45% and change, and then had a big bounce into that $17,000 lower high right here, and that was the big push down. So that's kind of my point, is that if you are bear, in my opinion, if you want to be the biggest bear thinking that the market cycle is over, more power to you. I'm not of that opinion right now. I'm not also saying that it necessarily can't happen, but I do think that even those people should really be expecting a bull trap first. If you don't get that bull trap, I would be extremely skeptical that this is, you know, anything resembling a market cycle like high that's going to last for multiple years. Do I think it's a high that might last for a month or two? Yeah, but I again look at that as a good thing more for the long term, as Bitcoin yet again sets in a base here, which I do think is still my sort of most likely scenario, if you will. Again, I can be massively wrong about that, and I'll be happy to switch around my opinion if and when that does happen. And as of right now, where effectively would I switch around my opinion on the macro cycle? I think Bitcoin would have to come back down below about 90,000 bucks and start to really close higher term timeframes below there. You know, and as of right now, I mean, Bitcoin, realistically, on a mega macro high, you expect price to run away from that high really quickly, like really quickly, and not really give you a second chance to short like around that high. So this doesn't really look like it to me. Again, I do think that there is downside here. I do think that Bitcoin can easily come down to, you know, $100,000 give or take, a little bit from that number, but you know, I wouldn't be. It's not my first or my most likely scenario that the Bitcoin cycle is over just yet. Now, for shitcoins, so sure, you know, most of them never even had a cycle. I mean, it's just, you know, you're just hoping and praying on something that's fucking impossible to begin with. But many of them, you know, if they haven't already shit the bed by now, then perhaps, you know, they could move with Bitcoin as well, if Bitcoin does get one more move to the upside. But yeah, I think at this point, if you haven't been convinced of the utter insanity in trying to hold altcoins, especially for this cycle, then I don't know what the fuck's going to convince you. And again, more power to you. Everyone's you know, can do whatever the hell they want to do. That's your prerogative. But you know, you might as well go to the fucking the prosperity church, because, well, honestly, don't go there. That's also going to be pretty bad as well. Both of them are equally as bad, to be honest. So maybe the prosperity church is a little bit worse, just because, I mean, they're telling you that you're going to, you know, cure your fucking blindness and cure your serious terminal diseases and cancers by simply giving more money. Just give your money. Just give your money. At least with the shitcoins, they probably still ask you for money, but I guess the implications are a little bit less. You know, they're not promising to fix those diseases. They're just promising in some weird way to make you rich immediately without any work on your own behalf. It's an amazing selling point. But yeah, man, Money says sell off on Bitcoin after a new all-time high isn't surprising. I would generally agree with that. I mean, pretty much happens on any major high, right? So yeah, fair enough. Creighton C says, he's having a conversation with someone. Aza Mashal says the high from 2 weeks ago was a 1 fib ring, but we have another target on the log version of the same ring at 130. Sure. Fibonacci rings, you know, I don't know, man. I haven't really seen that sort of stuff work out that well. There was a guy like a few years ago who was making all these rings all the time and always calling for like a mega dump, which never came. And I think, you know, at this point, it's like, how many times can you be wrong and then still rely on the same, you know, piece of edge? Hopefully not that much. Anyways, let's see. Thinking about the name, I just see a big super chat right there, so I'll address this right off the bat. Can you please go into more details on the 4-day and 5-day setup for Bitcoin? You mentioned, oh yeah, sure, man. In fact, that's going to be a portion of today's analysis. So let's just get right into it right now, and I will go right into that after some daily price action statistics. Again, Wednesday, since this bull market began in 2023, is slightly more likely to produce a positive closure rather than a negative closure, with 52.75% of all Wednesdays closing positively during that time. What is interesting about Wednesday is that it actually does have the highest positive returns. I don't think today's going to be one of those days, and I do want to point out that yet again, we are seeing another bounce off of, in this case, the average return range lows for Wednesday. So if you do have this indicator, the historical price action statistics indicator, which is a part of Caretaker's indicator suite, which you can find in the link description below, and try it for 7 days free, then, well, what do you know? Here's another fucking trade right in front of your face. Just a very quick scalp. Don't expect mega massive moves on these when you're trading something like this. When you're looking for these scalps, you're looking for a few $100 move. Very likely. Yes, in some cases they are tremendously massive moves, you know, where it's multi-$1,000. In this case, a bounce. But ultimately, on the first pass, you're almost always you're extremely likely to get, in this case, a bounce. And the second pass, not so much. Again, we've seen that many times. But I do want to also address yesterday the other way that I kind of postulated on how to interpret this and potentially set up some, you know, scalp trading events, which would be when you are trading significantly below the average returns range low. In this case, you can see that big wick to the downside below that average returns range low for yesterday. If it starts to deviate a lot, very often the close of that day will be a lot closer to that average. So, you know, if you see it deviate a lot, in this case, you know, down to like 110, you could say, hey, I might take my chances here. Obviously, you need to have a very obvious risk management. I think the obvious risk management here would be looking at that last prior low and saying, hey, as long as you're above there, I'll stay in this trade and I'll aim for somewhere close to that average returns range low. In that case, yeah, you could have made that work. That's going to be a little bit less risk, or sorry, a little bit more risky, to be fair. But again, there are multiple ways to interpret this. There are multiple ways to utilize this. And again, very valuable to the short-term time frame scalpers of this channel. I've been seeing a lot of success stories recently as well using this. So that's why I've kind of been harping on it recently. And that's cool to see, man. I love seeing that shit. Anyways, as always, whenever you have a piece of edge, even like this, you need to back test whatever the hell you're going to try to attempt to trade. So, while I am offering up ideas here, I would strongly suggest that you also go through the rigorous process of actually putting this on a piece of paper, exactly the way that I put out on this past week's video for basically how to create a strategy. Anyways, moving on from there, I do want to get into first the lower term timeframes, then we'll go to that 4 and 5 day setup, or potentially 4 and 5 day setup. Both of them have not fired off just yet, to be very clear. But right now, lower term timeframes do look to me like they're once again poised to retest these lows. I think that they might even spike a little bit lower, maybe a little bit below 110 or so. This would be a kind of fucked up, a little bit of a descending triangle. Ultimately, I don't know if I'd really classify this as any pattern right here, but it is a downtrend, which is more important than any pattern indeed, because all patterns are related to trend anyways. And in this case, you do have lower high, lower low, or sorry, actually same low right here, but lower high again. So the bias is on at least a retest of those lows and very likely a break to new lows from yesterday's low, that is. Now, do I think that Bitcoin's going to really start to close below that last Friday low? No, I do not think so. But I do think that Bitcoin might put in a wick somewhere down around here. And again, I don't think Bitcoin's going to break down as of right now. I think it's a lot more likely to bounce off this region yet again, kind of similar to what we said yesterday, a bounce likely. We got that bounce. Now coming back down to this region, I think you're going to get about the same setup with potential for, maybe a bigger bounce on this next one as well, perhaps up to about 114.5 or maybe even 115. But again, going into our shorter term time frame oscillators, do I see any sort of obvious signals right here? Not in the short term, but obviously yesterday did have hidden bearish divergence. So yeah, a little bit too late to call that one out. I think on the short term timeframes, it's super simple to be looking what the relevant region is for the upside. It's basically the high of yesterday, which is also in alignment with that 200 simple for the 4-hour time frame, where all these moving averages are kind of coalescing around, but they are now all in a bearish posture, which is obviously not fucking good. Anyways, my point is that as long as Bitcoin is below that level, that 116 spike that we saw from Monday, actually, or sorry, so it wasn't yesterday's high, it was Monday's high, which is also the 4-hour 200 moving average right here. I kind of have to be a little bit more on the defensive. If and when Bitcoin can actually trade above there, that's where I still think it's actually wise to be defensive, but you should get a move somewhere around 119, maybe even 120. But that's where if we do see a rejection, I'd actually be very concerned, because that would be kind of your traditional bull trap. Speaking a little bit more to that, I do want to get into this 4-day setup over here, as our man asked for earlier. And the 4-day and the 5-day are likely setting up relatively soon. The 4-day is closing tonight, so this one could fire off as soon as later this evening. And if the 4-day time frame is really closing later tonight, especially below, let's call it 113, we will naturally see that red and yellow moving average cross over to the downside, with the red moving average being on the underside of the yellow moving average. The reason why that is relevant is because anytime that we've seen that in the past 8 years, that has led to a minimum correction to the green moving average every fucking time in the past 8 years. It's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 iterations, of which the last one we saw was relatively recently, happening over here in early September. Didn't test that green moving average until actually this month, early October. But yeah, it did happen. It is more or less, I don't want to say guaranteed, but it's extremely probabilistic to happen. I think if we get that same cross again here, you're going to see that next test to the green moving average a lot sooner rather than later, compared to this last iteration that we had right here. Now, could there still be a rally in between? Sure. If it does happen, I'd be looking to 118 to 120-ish region. But again, if okay, and I want to be super fucking clear and say to this, because this is actually really important, and this is where I hope the people who really pay attention on this channel are going to get a lot of value from this. All right. I'm going to tell you, all right, I'll just lay it straight out like this. If you get it, you fucking get it. If you don't, then I'm not going to re-explain it. But okay, if we see this cross happen and Bitcoin has not tested the green 55 first before rallying, I would be looking at whatever rally you get up above that 116 pivot to 119 or 120 as extremely likely to be a trap, meaning that it'd rally up and somewhere around like 119, let's call it, give or take $1,000 from that number, and then smash back down and fulfill the test of the green 55 EMA right here. Now, on the other side, if Bitcoin does get that crossover, which it very likely will, again, just needs to close below 113 by the end of today, in 10 hours, 24 minutes, and 49 seconds and counting. And if it were to test the green moving average first and then bounce, then I would say the possibility of a trap gets significantly reduced, and it actually could be one of those scenarios where, I mean, Bitcoin just, I guess, does something that Bitcoin does, but be very, I would express extreme relevancy or extreme value on what happens first. Does it test at 55 first, or does it bounce first? If it bounces first, I can almost guarantee you it's going to be a trap. If it tests 55 first, then it's actually very possible that it will not be. Now, I do think it's more likely to test the 55 first here, and that would, as of right now, be at about 107, so more or less last Friday's low. That's also going to be, same area over here, and also it's going to be the daily 200 simple moving average as well, that white moving average right here, which effectively did get the low from last Friday. So if we do see a move down there first, I highly doubt it's going to break on the first on that next pass. I do think you're almost guaranteed a bounce, and a big bounce at that. Now, does that bounce bring it back up to all-time highs? I don't know. But one thing before the next, and we'll kind of follow up on this one as we get more information. I think that this is we're going to have a really good idea on what happens on this after tonight's closure, leading into the next 4 to 8 day period. I feel very, very strongly about that, actually. But yeah, as of right now, both are potential. It's just whichever one happens first, that's going to drive the buys for later. Anyways, moving on from there, and I guess speaking a little bit more towards the short-term downside buys would be, of course, our higher-term time frame momentum oscillators are still angled to the downside. We can see daily time frame over here is still showing downside pressure as long as Bitcoin's below $123,500. I mean, that's pretty heavy downside pressure, to be fair. 2-day time frame is going to be, I guess, freshly turning down here, also playing out a trendline regression rejection here as well. So it's again, next move to the downside. I do feel strongly about that as well. 124,600 is the magical number for this one. The 3-day time frame is going to also very likely be to the downside, but let's double check. As we let it load, just one moment, uno momento, or however the hell you say it. Yeah, this one's also freshly turning to the downside as long as Bitcoin's below 115,400. 5-day time frame does not close tonight. It closed actually on Friday night, and that one will also turn to the downside if Bitcoin's below 120. So again, I don't think that right now is like a time to be super bullish, looking for Bitcoin to pop back up to prior highs and make new all-time highs. No, I highly doubt that's happening. I think that this is at best a long-term sideways corrective range, but I also look at that as a really, really good thing for the long-term health of Bitcoin. If Bitcoin can just create a range here between 120 to the upside versus, let's call it like maybe like 95 to the downside, somewhere around here. I'm going to call it 95 to the downside. If it can hold a range like that for the next 2 months, I would look at that as a really, really good signal that this thing actually is sitting in that next mega base, and we're going to see a real try to the upside and, much higher prices implied. I don't know, very late this year / early next year. But if Bitcoin really starts to come down harder than there, again, there's probably going to be a big bounce into a bull trap. But goddamn, man, that's where do you want to call it a bear market, or do you just want to call it a crash? I don't know what the fuck you want to call it. I would just be looking significantly further down with bounces along the way, and just the overall bias for myself on this channel will turn significantly bearish if that were to happen. But for right now, I still think that there is more long-term hopium, just not short-term hopium. That was long gone, actually, or long gone at this moment. Anyways, following up on the quantum wave bands, again, for the people who are newer here, we've been using this kind of as like training wheels to show what a trading strategy looks like. And you can try it out for free. There's a link in the description below for Teachable, which will lead you to the quantum wave bands. And ultimately, this one actually did take another trade more or less at the lows. It opened at 110,400. Did not want to close that trade at the 116 rally. I'm kind of surprised by that, to be honest with you. So if you are in a trade like this, I would say, hey, you don't need to trade this strategy exactly how the indicator or the script is suggesting to do it, but it is still in profit. There's a lot more profit over here, and I'm not necessarily certain that I would be getting super, super greedy on this one, even though I do think you will get a bounce at some point, probably back around this region. But yeah, anyways, that is kind of what I am looking at, today. That's pretty much what I'm looking at today. This setup over here on the 4-day time frame, like I said, is going to become extremely relevant later tonight, extremely likely, again, if Bitcoin is still below 113 by the end of the day's closure. And then we get to play the game of, okay, does Bitcoin rally first or does it test the 55 first? Whichever one happens next then drives that next buys as to what sort of move we're going to get and where we're going to get it. But yeah, you can see that a lot of things matter. And in the very, very short term, again, I do think Bitcoin's likely to try a little bit of downside here. In fact, when we go to the shorter term time frame momentum oscillators, I'm curious what they say. 12-hour time frame, I imagine is going to be down, but let's see, because all the other higher term time frames are down. 12-hour time frame is a little bit more, I guess, nice in the sense that it will turn back up if Bitcoin closes above 112,600. I imagine timeframes below this actually should be showing some upside or upside pressure potential. Yeah, 110,700 right here for the 6-hour. 4-hour time frame should also be up as well. 111,420, great number. An hourly time frame is actually probably gonna be turning down. Yeah, it is down right now. So I think it grounds out these lows a little bit more. Very likely retest this low, maybe makes a slightly new low below 110. But I don't think you're going to be like crashing to new lows from here. That would be quite a surprise, at least to me. Maybe not other people out there, but again, I think you're a lot more likely to get one more bounce at least off of that white 200 moving average right here. And then if there's going to be a mega massive downside move, probably happens after a bull trap in the upper teens, let's say. So yeah, I'll leave things off on that note. Let's get into the actual super chats over here. I see Elsa's already combined a bunch of them, so I'm very happy about that. I'll take a sip of this water and then we'll get right on into it. Okay, and Steven Schickman is actually not first today. Holy shit, man, twice in a row. What is going on, sir? What is going on? That Friday dump must have shaken you up, sir. Hopefully all is well. Pizza says, hey, Krown GM, what's up, man? Can you check out XRP? Is it looking like down might come first? What's your time frame that you're looking at, man? That's the real question. Obviously, a 5-minute time frame is going to look a lot different than a daily time frame, right? So it'd be super, super helpful if you did, have that or put that in so I can make it more relevant to you. I do think XRP, similar to Bitcoin, is more likely to test around those lows. So for XRP, that would be maybe like 2.25 or 230-ish region, somewhere down around that blue 377 EMA. Yeah, but do I think it's going to bounce there as well? Yeah, I don't think that this is going to lead towards a move like this. I think it's going to be down here, bounce, and then, well, I mean, the bounce could bring you all the way back up to 280, and that's actually where your perfect sort of bull trap region would be, to be honest with you, man. But yeah, keep in mind that XRP is different than Bitcoin because this one has a downtrend on the daily, whereas Bitcoin does not as of yet. When we go to the weekly time frame, again, I think you're going to base off here, try bounce, and then if it's going to fail, then probably comes a little bit later. But yeah, man, hopefully that was helpful. You said, I think there's hidden bullish divergence forming on the weekly. Not sure how it would get confirmed. Let's go to my RSI chart, which is here. There we go. And let's go back to XRP. And let's see, man, speaking of pee, I should have peed before this stream. I'm going to have to hold it in for the next hour and a half. That's going to be quite difficult. Anyways, is there potential for hidden bullish divergence? Well, you do have lower lows on the RSI, but it needs to be within the context of an uptrend. And is this an uptrend? You could actually make the argument for that. This is where I kind of value experience over, over just straight up signals. And dogmaticness. And I would say, look, your last real low was this low over here in June. So if XRP could form a low right here, then you would have the potential for hidden bullish divergence because you already got lower lows on the RSI. So how would you confirm a local low here? You need to stop and reverse basically kind of where you're at. And confirm a local low. So as of right now, there's not a great way to do it. The by the book way, but I don't think this is going to end up how it's going to be, would be to wait for XRP to get back above last week's high, which is 305. I think if that happened, that's very obviously bullish, and you'd see very likely another return to the prior all-time high. And that hidden bullish evidence likely plays out to a new all-time high. But if this is going to form a low here, I think it's going to take at least another couple weeks. I think just like Bitcoin, you're a lot more likely to test somewhere down around that 2.25 region first, and probably bounce there as well, at least on this next pass. So is it potential? Yeah. Is it going to require a lot of work? Hell yeah. Is it going to require a lot of time? Also yes. So yeah. Anyways, Alyssa Kate says, can you look at Ethereum and what's your outlook from now until the end of the year? It's actually an interesting question. So let's go look at Ethereum spot. Overall with Ethereum, honestly, look, I'm not an Ethereum fan or nothing like that. But if I look at this chart, this is actually not bad. The quarterly time frame just retested the 5 EMA and also the breakout point. I think that's fine. That's all normal stuff if you're, especially like a pattern bro right here. And, leading into the end of the year, like what I'd say is that you have the most obvious setup that you could possibly have for Ethereum for the long term here. And that doesn't mean it's guaranteed. It's just you have a very obvious point of failure for this. If Ethereum is going to be bullish, you just don't expect it to go back down below last Friday's low of 34.67. So that means I could be optimistic for this thing to just trade sideways and up. I don't know if this happens by the end of this year. I think it probably would, or at least try a little bit of a move to the upside by end of year. But maybe it takes another 3 months after that. But as long as you're above last Friday's low, that would be your very obvious bullish stop. If I'll put it this way, if I was investing in Ethereum and hopefully I bought like a little bit below 4,000, I would just use last Friday's low as an obvious stop loss point, especially on a closing basis, and I'd actually be bullish as long as you're above there. And this looks like a retest of a breakout with likely higher to come. Now, does that happen before end of year? I don't know about that, but by the same token, again, it's not guaranteed. It also implies that if you do take out last Friday's low, I think you're looking at a catastrophic fall after that, probably down well below $3,000. But for right now, I think that's fine. I think that's okay. And I think it's more likely to go to the upside overall. If we look at Ethereum versus Bitcoin, I don't think it's as rosy. Well, it should try another upside move here. I still think that this thing does get at least to the 4.5 million Satoshi mark. I think maybe it could, in like a really good environment, get to 5 million Satoshis, but this is overall an absolute dog shit chart. I mean, again, you're just losing money by holding Ethereum longer and longer versus Bitcoin. Like, that's the problem with shit like this. But do I think it's going to go up from here? Yeah, I do think it's going to go up from here. I'll just be really, really, really cautious at about 4.5 million Satoshis. But I mean, at least you do kind of have a quarterly higher low here, so there is that. But yeah, I guess I'm not going to be rushing to like say, oh wow, this thing's definitely going to go into a long-term uptrend, because it's just so fucking far away from ever doing that, and it's never even done that to begin with on the higher term time frame. So I'd say Ethereum, Bitcoin, I have a lot. I'm a lot less confident on, although I do think it tries another move back around here, but that would be a great place for the next lower high. So yeah, there's that. There he is, Mr. Steven Schickman. He's back. He's looking at Doggy Daily Weekly. Check it out. Or I already have it on my list over here. So let's see, 20 cents again. Pretty good buyback, to be fair, but just like Bitcoin, just like probably most things we're going to look at today, I think you're almost guaranteed a retest around these lows, maybe slightly higher, maybe slightly lower, but somewhere around there. That'll be like 18 cents or 18.5 cents. I mean, overall, this is, it's certainly not in the strong bucket of things. It would absolutely require a very strong broad market for this thing to do anything of note to the upside. And honestly, I just think you are absolutely, you might as well just give that money to the Prosperity Church. Like, I mean, for fuck's sake, man. Like, I really just don't get it. I really just don't get it. But yeah, anyways, it's your money. It's not mine. So do whatever the fuck you want to do. This one to me looks like it's a lot more likely to play out a range move to the downside. I mean, if I was just looking at Doggy Coin, not looking at the rest of this market, I would say, oh, this is a very obvious range play. You got range high right here. You just rejected from it. You got range low over here. You're right about the middle. You might have some bounce along the way, but you're probably going to get back down around about 15 cents or so at some point. I just don't know how long that takes, man. And is it bearish as long as you're below the September high? I don't know about that, but I would only feel confident on switching bullish to this thing as long as you are, only if you were to trade back above last week's high, which is 27 cents. I don't think that that's happening anytime soon. I think you're more likely to test some downside sooner rather than later. So if it is going to be bullish, I think you're looking at something like this, again, bounce along the way, whatever, but it likely come somewhere down around here first and then make that move to the upside if it even makes it at all. That's kind of my point, man. If we're looking at it versus the Bitcoin pair, bad. It's just fucking, like, look, man, it's only ever going to go down. It's like, the Bitcoin pairing chart should all, like, I'm trying not to come off as, like, super fucking preachy here, but for fuck's sake, really? Like, fucking really? If your Bitcoin pairing chart is in a downtrend, there's just no universe where it makes sense to invest in whatever fucking shitcoin that you're looking at instead of just investing in Bitcoin. For fuck's sake. Holy shit. This is bad. This is really fucking bad. It's really fucking bad. Heavily bearish as long as you're below last month's high, just 265 Satoshis. I think you're a lot more likely to test around these range lows again, 140 or 150, whatever it is. I don't know if it breaks down, but yeah, it's just terrible. All you're doing is you're just bleeding out your money versus Bitcoin. The longer that you hold this thing, you're just losing more and more and more and more value. It's like you could be holding dollars and losing about 2%, 3% a year, or you can hold Dogecoin and just lose even more versus Bitcoin and the dollar as well. I don't get it, man. I really don't. But yeah, again, it's your life. It's your investments. I guess you like the technology. The technology is looking good. I like that avatar. Their revenues are looking really strong. Anyways, all good, man. Sorry, I don't mean to be so fucking rude. Anyways, Shane T says BitF Daily Weekly. This is a Bitcoin miner, BitF. BitDerps, really good, really fucking good. Again, your alt season is in traditional market, not in shitcoins. It's not in shitcoins, it's in the traditional markets. All of it is right in front of your very fucking face, and everyone's denigrating this because traditional market equals bad and old and antiquated. But while that's been happening, this thing went up over 800% in the past, in the past less than a year. And not even less, oh my fucking God, in the past like 4 or 5 months. Like, this is the patheticness of these crypto shitcoins, for fuck's sake. Like, why? Why? Fucking why? A meme coin, an absolute garbage piece of shit like Dogecoin, like most of the things we're going to see today. Or you could trade Bitfarms, which I'm not even a fan of or anything like that. I think, miners don't make a lot of sense in many ways. But at least if you're gonna be looking for that shitcoin season, you're getting it right here. You're getting it right here. Like, that's where you're getting these crazy X's. You're not getting them in cryptos. Your cryptos fucking suck. They're terrible. Most of them are fucking god awful. Holy shit. It's amazing. Now, is this thing, do I think it's going to like zoom up to new highs from here? I think it actually will make new all-time highs, but I think you're, just like most things, going to sell off after retesting around that prior all-time high, spend some time going sideways, and then try for like the real all-time high break. And that's where, I guess, like the late bloomers. So I bet you when that happens, that's when all of the fucking crypto shitcoin enjoyers are going to realize, oh my God, shit's happening over in traditional markets. I need to get in it. And that's going to be like the last month or two of the traditional market mega rally. It's almost guaranteed. It's not almost guaranteed, but I think it's very, very likely. I can be massively wrong about this, obviously, but yeah, look, overall, this is very good long-term. I do think that it will make new all-time highs. I just think you're going to play out a prolonged sideways period and pull back after getting maybe a little bit higher. Maybe it gets like closer to $7.5 or $8, then pulls back and then goes for the big move. But yeah, man. What's up, Go with Boris? He says GM going to Copacabana. Copacabana? It's at the Copacabana. Do you know that song, Elsa? Copacabana? Or the Copacabana? That's from Mario. The Copacabana at the Copacabana. Yeah. Anyways, Chuck Parts says Krown Trading Bible is the only Bible you need. I appreciate that, man. I did not put 2 and 2 together and make that. God damn it! How did I miss that one? Oh God, that could have been so good. But thank you for that, man. I do appreciate that feedback. Yeah, man. The Trading Bible is there as just my sort of, if I had to lay out everything that I think is valuable to learn in trading, in investing, in mindset, and even options as well, it would be in that program, and also quantitative trading as well. But yeah, man, I never, I always want to balance it out when I talk about the, my educational program. While I stand by it, while I absolutely love it, while I'm very, very proud of it, I always want to make sure that people understand, look, trading, like any profession, if you want to learn it at a high level, it's going to take a lot of fucking work, man. It really is. Like, there's no secret magic. Yeah, I do believe that if you follow the roadmap that's laid out in that program, it will lead to good things. It will lead you to the path that you want to go to, but that requires a shit ton of work. I mean, people don't understand like how many hours of back testing is really required before you generally find something good. Like, more often than not, whenever you're back testing a strategy, you're going to find something that just doesn't work because most things don't fucking work. So it's a lot of tedious sort of activities. Now, if you're a super fucking nerd like myself, then it's actually quite fun. But at the same time, I understand that's not going to be it for most people, especially if you have like a life outside of this place. It's just a lot of time. It's just a lot of time, man. Is what it really is. But that's the same thing with anything, So for me, it's like, why wouldn't I invest my time in something that can actually give something back to me Or maybe I should go play World of Warcraft because then I can have some beautiful pixels on my screen. Anyways, I've also done a lot of that as well. Anyways, Live City says, aloha, Krown. Good morning to you, man. Can you not look at at Litecoin today? If that's a request not to look at it, I can consider that, I guess. I mean, I don't know if that's a backwards way of asking me to look at it. We can look at it really quick, man. It doesn't bother me to look at these things. It's funny that I see so much focus on these things when I think these LARP lines are going to happen, man. I mean, you've already gotten that downside move, so holy shit, those LARP lines played out really fucking. I mean, it's not supposed to be exactly like this, to be honest, but yeah, I think something like the LARP lines, if it is going to end up being bullish, but like most things, I think you're going to retest lower first or next move down. So I think this thing could maybe come down to like 85 and then try a bounce. Do I think that bounce is going to bring you back above last week's high? I highly doubt it. No, I think it's going to go sideways and down and continue with this mega massive range. I mean, this thing is no different to Dogecoin than me. At the end of the day, you're just losing more and more value than you would have been if you just hold Bitcoin. The Litecoin Bitcoin chart is just, I mean, this should be scary to anyone. This should be scary to anyone. Like Litecoin was once considered a legitimate project, in the silver to Bitcoin's gold back in 2017. And, what does silver to Bitcoin's gold get you? It gets you more and more and more and more and more wrecked over time. If we measure from the high to the low, lost 97.5%, and then you're also losing the value by holding it from the dollar as well, because it's just going sideways and you're dealing with inflation. So yeah, it just sucks no matter which way you cut it. The thing is that people will hyper focus on these one-off bounces every once in a while, which yes, are impressive, and they think that they're just going to blindly trade them perfectly, which is nearly impossible, when all they had to do was just fucking buy Bitcoin. Just fucking buy Bitcoin if you're going to be that kind of person that holds things for a long time anyways. That's all that I have to say about that. All right, a little bit too much of preaching today. I apologize. Anyways, thinking about the name, yes, we addressed this earlier regarding the 4-day time frame, the 5-day time frame setup. If you're referring to this one right here, that one is still a little bit further away from firing off. As of right now, the two moving averages, the red and the yellow, are drawing very close to each other. But I don't think it's going to happen on this next closure. Probably the period that follows it. So on Saturday, I think you very well might see that happen. But as of right now, it would require Bitcoin to close below 106,500 on Friday to force that cross, which then would initiate that green moving average, which is all the way down at 104 as a legitimate target. So I don't think it's going to happen on this period, but maybe the next period, because this number will change and it'll be a lot higher. It'll be a lot higher most likely. So yeah. Anyways, you're saying the average amount of days and invalidations for the setup. I'm aware that 4-day will fire off only today if it closed below 113. Yep, so we got that. The average amount of days and invalidation for the setup. So the 4-day one typically happens relatively fast. The only time it's taken more than a couple closures in the past 8 years was actually this most recent one right here. Every other one has happened almost on the next exact period or 2 periods from then, like you saw over here. But yeah, generally it happens quite quickly is what I'm trying to say. So if it does fire off again, that's why I really do think you're going to see the period that follows that is going to test that green 55. And then could that bleed into the 5-day time frame setup? Yeah, very, very, very possible. But we want to see that one fire off first. So yeah, man, one thing before the next. Anyways, Get With The Hype says, GM Krown, what's up, man? Solana versus Bitcoin on the monthly. All right, I'm actually curious to see what this one looks like. I would imagine probably not great. Not great, but not as terrible as what we saw with Scene as some of those other things like Litecoin. Let's go back here though. I'm actually going to get rid of that prior chart because I have a bad habit of clicking back on it. I do think that you are caught in a consolidation range here. I do personally think it's going to break bearish over time. But regardless of whether I'm bullish or bearish, I think that at some point you will absolutely get back down to these lows here that you saw from July of this year, somewhere down around like 14,000-ish Satoshis. If you go over to the daily time frame, I don't have super strong opinions as whether it's going to head down exactly from here or whether it bounces more first. If I had to call it, I think it actually does come down relatively soon. Maybe it spikes a little bit higher first, like 19,000, and then comes down. But again, this green boundary right here is everything for the long term, and it sounds like you are in the long term, referencing the monthly, but the weekly I think is where it becomes rather obvious. Look, anywhere above September's highs, then this is going to be massively bullish, massively fucking bullish. You know, you're at least going to see back around 30,000 plus satoshis. Do I think that's likely? No, but no, I don't. But you know, if that would have happened, that would make me massively bullish on it. I think you're a lot more likely to come back down around here. I also don't think you're going to break this on the next test. I think you're going to bounce again, to be honest. If you do break it, then yeah, it's going to be catastrophic for this thing. It's, you know, it's probably going to come all the way back down to 2023 levels, but give it a chance, I suppose. If we're just looking at the monthly, you know, definitely not impressive right here. But not nearly as bad as most of the other shitcoins that we've seen. So there is that, man. There is that for sure. Mr. Sanka says, thoughts on gold versus Bitcoin. Actually, I have this chart, or I have this ticker on my list right here. This is Bitcoin versus gold. So I have it backwards than what you just quoted, but same thing basically. You're looking at a higher term time for like a weekly or monthly. So when I'm on the monthly right here, I do think that this thing does want to test more downside, probably back to at least that last price action pivot low, which is 2460. So that means that gold would be beating Bitcoin. Yeah, gold is going to beat Bitcoin in the short term, at least, maybe even leads into the long term as well. But do I think it's going to break below this, you know, this area right here, or basically those lows from September of 2024? Not without another bounce at least first. But when I go to the quarterly, like this thing wants down no matter which way I kind of paint it. So I think you're going to come down somewhere around here. And then hopefully for Bitcoin's sake, bounce versus gold. But yeah, I expect gold to continue to do better than Bitcoin actually on these higher term timeframes. And again, you have that same sort of setup potential here with that red and yellow moving average. If it crosses the downside, I mean, the green moving average becomes a nice and obvious target. So yeah, there is that. There is indeed that. Yeah. But again, I would be looking for a bounce once it retests this low over here. So if you are more short term, I don't know if that's relevant to you or not. That's probably coming up relatively soon. But you know, if it bounces back up and gets to like 29 or 30, that's still a lower high. So that's kind of the problem here. Yeah. Anyways, wrapping it up in one sentence. Yeah, I think gold is going to generally be beating Bitcoin throughout this next period. I don't know, the next 3 months or so. Something like that. DPS says, custom chart on daily and weekly. Do I have to? All right, I'll just type it out, man. All right. Like, if you're going to look at something exotic like this, you might want to, like, provide more context on, well, one, what you're specifically looking for. Like, what are you trying to measure out here? I'm guessing you're looking at Bitcoin's value versus SPX, but what is SP? Like, is that SPX on SP? Maybe it is. Anyways, I think you're just looking at the SPX. No, it's not denominated in Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin denominated in SPX. Basically, which one would I rather hold? Probably still Bitcoin, but I do think in the short term you might have some more downside here to like 15 or so. But that should be another higher low, at least on the first pass. Yeah. See what a yearly looks like. Yeah, I'd still be bullish on Bitcoin over SPX. But I do think in the short term you got a little bit of downside. So depends what you're looking at. Yeah, when I'm looking at it over here, you know, very likely to swipe these lows, maybe a little bit lower. But I'd still be bullish on Bitcoin over S&P. So yeah. Anyways, in the long term, like, you know, again, fast forwarding like 6 months to a year out, thinking about the name says, where do you think Sol will form a higher low? Higher lows are never guaranteed, of course, but if we run with the assumption that it is indeed bullish, then where would the higher low likely come in around? I guess is the real question. Well, I guess the most optimistic person would say that last Friday's low was the higher low. Yeah, the problem is that if last Friday's low wasn't the higher low, then this thing's coming much, much, much lower. And it's, I mean, depends what time frame you're on. If you're on a monthly time frame, I think your higher low would be more likely around 140 to 150. If you're on a weekly time frame, then, well, when you start to go below 155, that is a lower low. So It's not really what you're looking for because it's no longer a bullish bias there, is it? So basically it either has to be already in there, which I think is unlikely, possible but unlikely, especially if I think Bitcoin's going to retest those lows, and I think Solana is going to test around these lows again. I think at best you come back down to these regions right here, and that's like your best case scenario for a higher low is 175. If you did get another heroic bounce off of 175 and took out yesterday's high, I would actually look at that as, okay, that probably is the low that you're looking for, and this thing actually is going to be bullish, but that still implies that it's going to come back down somewhere around here, 180 to 170-ish region. Yeah, kind of hard, man. Hard one. But yeah, if Bitcoin comes back down to 106, 107, I expect it back down around here, more or less. That's actually, do you think personally we go lower than that if Bitcoin goes to 107, I think you're coming back down here. 180, so it's a little bit lower than 180. So I don't know if I'm splitting hairs on this one. Like, it's pretty close to what you're saying, I guess. I just think slightly lower, like not that much lower, but slightly lower. Crypto Shart says, Syrup, please, 4 on daily. Got it, man. All right, Crypto Shart. Syrup. There we go. All right. My spelling gets worse and worse over time. But to be fair, one of the better bounces we've seen, absolutely. So there is that. It is, to be fair, still in a downtrend. But hey, compared to some of the other higher cap altcoins, doing better than them. So that is interesting. Anyways, 4-hour time frame. This would be a really good place for a local high to be forming. In my opinion, you got some bearish evidence on the 4-hour time frame. It's not anything like super crazy. I think you're likely to get a pullback maybe a little bit below 42 cents, but that's just a 4-hour time frame. It's not anything super crazy. If the daily time frame really starts to close back down below that 41 cent number, I would be looking at this thing as well, this is a bull trap right there in front of your face. But yeah, honestly, a hard one for me. If I'm looking at the weekly, then I'm just like, that looks fucking bullish, man. If this thing closes above 43 cents, I'm bullish. But the weekly obviously doesn't close in the next 4 hours. It closes on Sunday. So if it's still above, let's call it 43 cents by Sunday, I'm just bullish on this thing, looking for it to get back up to 60 cents, 55 to 60 cents, maybe even new highs or retesting those highs. It's possible. It looks a lot better than most other things. By the same token, if the daily starts to close below 40 cents or 41 cents, I would say that's your big major warning signal, and then the weekly to follow through as well. But yeah, very interesting that it looks much different than most other things. But yeah, it genuinely does. It genuinely does to me. So fair enough. Anyways, one moment. The Conservative Cat says RCKT. I'm guessing, oh, this is a stonk. Thank you for specifying, sir, weekly and monthly. So this is Rocket Pharmaceuticals. I like it. It's sounds like a biotech of some sort, which can do some crazy shit, but this one's been doing some weird shit. Anyways, weekly, monthly, I think you're in a bounce area. I don't like it. I don't like it at all, but I think you are in a bounce area, and I think it could bounce up a good amount, maybe even like $7.50. That may take a long time because this is a monthly time frame, so I don't know. It might take like fucking, 2, 3, 4 months, but I think you're generally bouncing from here. I think you're going to get up to like somewhere around, let's call it somewhere between $5.50 to maybe even as much as like $7.50. It's a big range, but I do think this is a bouncy area right here. Now, long term, I don't like it. I think this is a heavily bearish chart, but it can have a big bounce here. And again, this is my point. Like, if you're looking for fucking alt season, it's in fucking stocks. It's in fucking stocks. Like, everyone who's so tunnel visioned on these crypto shitcoins that really are quite worthless in most ways. Is missing the opportunity that's right in front of their face. It's right in front of your fucking face. Anyways, Crypto Shard is back. He says, can you have a look-see at Tau? It's like, from this to Tau. Amazing. Well, hold on. It might be great. Let's see. Actually, really good buyback there as well. This one, more similar to the other one that you were looking at, Syrup. So fair enough. Kudos to you for pulling out stuff that actually genuinely does look different than the majority of crypto shitters here. But yeah, you're popping back up into that prior range high. I do think this is kind of a short-term pullback region, but not necessarily terrible. I'd only get super bearish on it if it came back down below about 355. And I do recall last time we looked at it on Monday for you, I do recall that we said, hey, this thing's likely to trade back up towards $500. And It actually didn't get exactly to $500. Got to 480, but hey, I'll take it. It looks pretty damn good to me compared to most things. Other than that, like, it genuinely does look significantly different. I do think you're going to spend some more time in this consolidation range, but I wouldn't be blindly bearish on it. No, I'd only be bearish on it if it comes back down below 350. Until then, I think you go sideways here and maybe a little bit of downside, but that's not a terrible thing. $500, your next big area of interest above there, or 495. I think you could have another explosive move, $590 to $600 if that happens. The conservative cat says ACHR, stonk, ripper dip. Nice, my favorite game. ACHR, Archer Aviation. Yes, we've seen this one many a time now. More likely to rip. I'm just looking at the daily time frame and the monthly time frame. It's an overall uptrend. It's already, in my opinion, spent plenty of time consolidating at the highs after retesting that prior high. So it's kind of the price action that I'm talking about on many of the other charts that we've seen. I think you're more likely to try a continuation of this move rather than a reversal. But if there's a super obvious way to get bearish on this thing, and it's actually just looking at yesterday's low. If this thing trades below yesterday's low, okay, bearish, failed breakout, coming back down to well below $10, probably like $8.50 to $9. But if I had to call it right now, I think you're more likely to move to the upside. You got hidden bullish evidence on the weekly time frame, just let it go. You got a beautiful, it would be an ascending triangle right here, just higher lows and higher highs as well. I'm betting on a rip, man. If I put a gun to my head, I'm betting on a rip. Arjun says, good morning, Krown. What's up, man? VZ on the monthly, please. I'm looking for long-term stonks to rotate some capital into. Cool. Let's see. Whoops. I did it backwards because, as usual, I am dyslexic. Verizon Communications down. I do not like this one. No. What? No! Sir, no. Bad. It's a bad one. Way more likely to come back down to these like low $30 lows than it is to reverse here. If it was going to revert, like it got rejected on a lower high, on a bearish cross of the 55 and the 21, that is textbook. This thing is very likely to come back down to these lows over time. This may take like 6 to 12 months, but I would be very confident it's going to come back down to low 30s rather than just reverse here and go back to highs. If you do want to invest in the long term, I would be looking over here, but I don't think this is a good long-term investment personally. But that's just me. That's just my opinion. So yeah. Anyways, Noah Reason says, cheers, cheers with water. One moment, sir. One moment. Cheers indeed. PENDLE, ripper dip, short term. Okay. So to me, that means like 4 hour or maybe even a daily. But we shall play the game. More likely to dip down towards this low here. So it's not that far away from it now, but I guess if it's very short term, I think you're more likely to come back down to like 330, 3.25, something like that. And then bounce rather than just bounce from here. But either way, I don't think you're breaking down significantly here. I think this is a bouncy region. It's like, how much do you want to front run that? Because after it comes back down around here, I'd be looking for it to bounce, maybe even gets back around like $3.75, $4, something like that. Maybe it's possible. Boyko Hirstov, Mr. Hirstov says, hey, Krown, regards from Bulgaria. What's up, man? SLDP. Bulgaria, nice, man. SLDP, solid power, daily, weekly, good. Or that's 4 hour time frame, but still good on the daily and still good on the weekly. I don't like it as much when I zoom out, but this does look like a real reversal here, and I do think that you have more upside, and I do think that you're actually quite likely to get somewhere around these highs here at like $9.25 or $9.50, and then pull back a decent amount, but still likely to produce an uptrend. I mean, this is overall good. I just think you're going to get a little bit higher, somewhere around those mid to low $9 numbers, and then pull back a bit, something like that, man. I don't know if that's super relevant to you or not, though. I'd get super bearish if it came back down below that 340 low right here. I don't think that's what's happening. But again, we have another fucking stock that's gone 2x in the last 3 weeks. Like, your crypto shitcoins have migrated to real traditional markets. It's amazing. It's truly amazing. It's truly amazing. Chris Vela says, Zen Daily Weekly. Any more juicier to squeeze on this? I don't know. Let's see. This is the one that's supposed to follow the old Z caches, right? I would say this is a beautiful place for the next lower high, sir. Yeah, don't like it, man. Yeah, I'd be looking for this one to pull back from here. I'd be looking for this one to pull back here more than likely. You just head up into, or you just reject from the 200 simple on the weekly time frame. All major moving averages are in bearish posturing. Daily time frame looks to me like a rejection and some very slight amount of bearish divergence there, but I think it's coming back down to like mid tens. And if it comes back down anywhere below last Friday's low, which is 10, 20 or so, I would say this is going to be the next macro lower high. And you're just going to continue on with the long-term downtrend from there. Other than that, I don't really have strong opinions on it. I'd only get bullish on this one, and this is not helpful in any way, shape, or form, but it'd have to trade back above last Thursday's high and close above there. So, yeah. I would say you got most of the... I think you got the easy juice right there. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It is what it is. Giles DeBosch, what's up, man? GM, sir. XRP quarterly, please. Bought at 10 cents and moved half my bags to Bitcoin today, looking to dump the rest on a bounce. You think it's plausible we fill that wick to the downside or even lower? Maybe not 95 cents. Your thoughts? Okay, let's go to XRP first. Where is it? Yes. You're specifically asking about a quarterly time frame. I don't know, man. If something's going to survive, it seems to me like XRP could actually be one of them. You thought so? Do I think it's possible that it fills the wick to the downside? I mean, if it does, it's going lower, man. Like that's the problem with this. I do think that it comes back down to like 2.25 or so, but that's obviously well and far away from that 140 low. So yeah, or your 95 cent low. I guess you're on a different exchange, but I'm not saying it's impossible to come down there. I'm just saying if it did come down there, I think it's going lower. I think you're more than likely to get a bounce off of the 230 or 225 retest. So yeah. Anyways, I don't really know where you're going with that one, to be honest. Maybe the XRP Bitcoin chart is probably more relevant for you. Let's see. Yeah, to me, the XRP Bitcoin chart, it's like this is probably the next lower high here. So I think that this one does fill that wick and goes low over time. So it's like this is probably one of the better times to reclaim value from XRP. But again, if I'm wrong, I'm going to be so fucking wrong on it. It's, I'd feel really, really bad about it. Because, I mean, if it does take out this high, which, to be fair, it's never been in a quarterly uptrend. But if it were to, then I think you got a big upside move towards like 55, 5,400 Satoshis. I think that's very unlikely personally, but... this looks like it's a lot more likely to reject to me than it is to try reversal to the upside. So yeah. Freddie M says BITF daily weekly. We already did that. So we're all good there. He's back though. He's looking at CLSK. All right, cool. We can do that one. CLSK, Clean Spark. You're looking at a daily and a weekly on its way to $40 end of year. I am bullish on this, and actually $40 does not sound that crazy to me. You have some nice higher lows coming off of these monthly, this monthly time frame here, all the way back from 2020. So that's good. You have, or you're very close to that prior last local and lower high. So I think that this is real potential for a reversal here. And $40 would be the next sort of obvious area, any between there and like $60, honestly, man. Like this one, I mean, if it's a real reversal, it's gonna be big. Again, your crypto shitcoins gains have all migrated. They've all left you. You haven't picked up the phone yet to hear it straight from them, but they have left you, and they're leaving you on red. They sent you a text to break up, and you didn't fucking read it. They're not gonna call you. They're not gonna fucking call you. They just went over here. Now they're fucking fucking with the traditional hoes. Okay, they're no longer in the crypto market. With the crypto degens, they've moved on to real things. These are now high class prostitutes. No longer are they just relegated to the pits of the crypto sphere, fucking with these beautiful crypto people. No, they've moved on. They've moved on to better things. Yeah, man. Yeah, I think the reversal does pull through, to be honest, on this one. this actually looks quite good, especially on the quarterly. Anyways, one moment. Like talking about timing for a move like that, does it happen by the end of the year or not? I really don't know. I think it's very possible that I will. If I had a bet on it, I probably actually would. But I don't know. Maybe it takes another 3 months on top of that. Whatever it ends up being, man. Looks good, actually. Live City says, thanks. Hey, man, I appreciate that, man. Thank you for the feedback and all the best to you, man. All the best to you. Mr. Saleh says, can you look at ZEC on the daily? Okay. Yes. I remember the other day this one had a pretty epic rally. And we said this would probably be a good place for it to pull back. And it is there now. And I would actually stick exactly with what I said before. If it's going to pull back from anywhere, this is the place to do it from. I mean, maybe it spikes officially this high to the T, like 350 or 360, but I mean, it's seen most of that move. It got up to 300 almost. We're seeing some bearish divergence on the daily time frame formulate now. I think it's very likely this one is in the process of putting in a major high right here. Yeah, very likely to put in a major high right there. Maybe it will spike up to like 340 or 350 first, but again, I think the overwhelming majority of that move is already done, and this is a major high right here. You got bearish divergence forming on the daily time frame. You got mega extreme volatility over here as well. That was either the top right there, or maybe it spikes one more higher and then puts in that final drive of divergence and then comes down. But I think most likely this move is over. Anyways, Christine Maria says HDIV on TSX. Sure. HDIV. Okay. All right. This is okay. Hamilton enhanced Canadian cover call. Okay. All right. Okay. I see what's going on. Bullish. Daily, weekly, monthly. Share, man. Or sorry, you are not a man. You're Christina. You're a woman, most likely. Oh, it's a lady. Yeah. I'd be bullish on this. I think you're gonna make new highs from here. Now, how much higher does it go? I don't fucking know. I guess we actually could do something like this for this. To see what the next major areas of interest are. To the upside, next major area of interest is going to be about $21. Above there, you got 22.5, and then about 25. I don't know which one it gets to, but I'd be cautious at all of those major numbers. But overall bullish. Overall, just a fresh breakout to new all-time highs. Like I think it's going to continue for a while, to be honest with you. So yeah. Ray now says, good morning, Krown. What's up, man? Hope you're doing great. I'm doing all right. Could have got a little bit more sleep last night, but it's all good, man. Today's an easy day. No workout today. Just getting a haircut. I'm looking for an IDFC First Bank Indian stock. Okay. Daily, weekly. Got you. Okay. IDFC. Okay. IDFC. There we go. Okay. Kind of a hard one here. I do respect the long-term uptrend for sure. You didn't ask about the monthly, but I think that this one shows things rather well. Weekly time frame. I guess the question is this going to be the higher low that propels it upwards and onwards on the reversal? No, I wouldn't be conclusive about this one. I do think it's more likely to move to the upside than the downside from here. I think it's more likely to go to $85.50 than it is to come down to like $57, for example. Now, if I'm on the daily time frame, I think you got short-term downside. So it depends what time frame you're on, right? If you're on a daily time frame, I think it comes down to like 71.5, 71.80-ish region, somewhere around there. But that's still, a range play. Your range is basically your highs here versus your lows here. I'm just not bearish on it until you're back down below that August 31st low right here at 67.80-ish. If you do come down below there, okay, I'm going to be wrong about continuation to upside first, and it's going to be very likely a big pullback down to below $60 first, that $57 or $58 number. But until that happens, I guess I would be more biased towards an upside breakout. I'm just not super confident on it. Short term, though, I am confident that this one does come down from here a little bit, but it's higher lows as long as you're above $68, $69. So, it's not an issue or nothing like that. Chris Fellow says RGTI still in blue sky mode. Let's check it out. I mean, if it's making new highs, then absolutely. Let's see. I don't see any issues with this. Yeah, it sold off a little bit today. That's fine. Well, There are some issues with it, actually. We got 1, 2, 3 drives of bearish divergence all formulating right here, but we do not have a confirmed local high just yet. In fact, this over here was not even a confirmed local high, which is why caretaker's indicator is not firing that one off. I would only say that your blue sky breakout mode is canceled and it's time to be looking for actually a higher low, to be honest, but a pullback into a higher low in only if it takes out yesterday's low, which is $50. Until then, I mean, this is really extreme, man. This is really, really extreme. And so that's what makes me really pause on these, because it's like, if it does have more continuation, I mean, I don't know how much more these things have. The monthly is still pretty good and the quarterly is still pretty good. So long term, it's actually still pretty good. But the daily time frame, if it has a pullback, it could easily have a very flash crash move to like 40 or 42, but $42. Put in a higher low there and then continue upwards and onwards. But higher term time frames are still bullish, man. Like, this is fine. This is fine. Weekly, a little bit questionable. Daily, a little bit questionable for a pullback. But yeah, it just depends what you're looking at right there. I'm going to get over to the regular chats in just a moment here. Let's see what we got going on here. I've got to turn on my phone as well. Fuck. Anyways. All right, un momento. Let me scroll back here. Boom. Let me just turn on the sound for my phone because I am awaiting some things. All right. As always, getting a million calls in the hour. Okay. All right. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Yes. Nothing super crazy has happened just yet. Thank God. All right. Cool. Let me scroll all the way down to these chats, see what we got going on here. Aaron's actually back. He's looking at tethered dominance. Okay, tethered dominance. Where's my tethered derp? My tethered.D, my tethered derp. Right here, 480. This does kind of have me concerned for Kryptons. There is a really obvious way to, it's not bearish, but there is a very obvious way to be looking for another move back down to like 4.15 to 4%. And that would be if we see another move back down below, anywhere below Sunday's low, which is 460. Yeah, until that happens, I mean, this is technically a good place for a lower high. It's right on the green 55 on the weekly. But fuck, man, if this one breaks out, it's gonna be so fucking fast to the upside. So, you know, the super obvious area to be aware of is right here, 460. Below there, that price action pivot, that's gonna be very bullish for crypto assets, particularly Bitcoin. Yeah, I shouldn't even say crypto assets because honestly, altcoins just get fucked either way. It seems like in this cycle. But below there, you know, Bitcoin has some serious hopium. As long as you're above there, yeah, upside is more likely, but it's not necessarily an uptrend just yet. Just, you know, maybe another swipe up above 5% or so, something like that. I don't feel super one way or the other about this chart in its current standing. I mean, the 2-week time frame does have a higher low in place, but it still is lower highs, so we have no real obvious trend going on here. Monthly time frame, same shit. Like, it's potential for a higher low, yes, but still working on massively lower highs. So yeah, I feel like I'm not very helpful with this one. I apologize, but yeah, I just don't have strong opinions on it. What Watch Tac Pack says, I cannot get it why Bitcoin sucks lately. All-time high Bitcoin dump. Yeah, it literally doesn't go up in a straight line. Crazy idea, sir. Could I interest you in the Church of Prosperity? Just send them $1,000. I'll send you 10,000 back. Anyways, I literally just did it, sir. Anyways, has a Steam ran out of BNB? Where is a good entry? Again, like you do this every fucking time. I have no idea what time frames you're looking at. I have no idea what your trading strategy is. I don't think you even know what your trading strategy is, probably because you don't have one. But is it running out of steam? I mean, obviously it's pulling back a little bit here. I think it's going to enter into a consolidation for a while. And I do think that you have a little bit of downside. So if you're talking about the lower term timeframes, then yes. If you're talking about the higher term timeframes, I'd say it's inconclusive as of this moment. I'd actually still be bullish on the higher term timeframes, to be honest. Like if we're looking at a quarterly, but it's going to be significantly different. Best Buy on the monthly, like Best Buy the stock. Shit, they're still in business. Best Buy, yeah, BBY. How are they still in business? That's a real question. Bullish. Quarterly has hidden bullish evidence right here. It's been consolidating for the last, like, I don't know, 3-4 years. I think your next move is back up to the top side here, like maybe $92 to $93. Now this can take a while. This is a quarterly time frame. You know, might take 3 to 6 months, but overall, I think you try some upside from here. Low 90s. Long term, I'd be bullish on it. It's good. It's fine. Gold 4200 says legendary leads. Yeah, man, that's the beauty of a blue sky breakout is they typically continue to do more of the breaking out activities, which is going further to the upside. Let's actually look at it. I do think gold is going to be beating Bitcoin for a while, though. Yeah. Again, you know, it is getting quite extreme here. I know say this often, but I mean, how many more months of extreme volatility can you expect on something like this? You know, probably a few more months. I think into the end of the year at least. But this is getting exaggerated at this point. But yeah, I don't think the highs are in yet. You will have pullbacks on the lower term timeframes for sure. Blockbuster on the weekly, yeah, it's looking good. They have a really good business model. Let's see. What do you think of IREN? Says G-Bane. We can look at it. This one's been quite popular for the stonks recently, but I don't have a good mental model of what this one is. Oh, it's another one of these all-time high stocks. Crazy. We have another stonk making new all-time highs that has gone up. Wow, it's gone up literally more than 10x in the past 6 months, 5 months. Again, what are you doing in fucking crypto shitcoins? Why are you in crypto shitcoins? You missed the 1000% move to the upside in stonks. You're gonna have a lot more luck throwing darts and stock charts than you are gonna have throwing darts at crypto charts. A lot more luck there. Here we go. Daily Ethereum pump is coming, says Benny Crypto. Do you promise? I wish I had the confidence of social media commenters. No, I don't think this is gonna pump from here. It's just me though. I think it's a lot more likely to come back down to these lows. But I'd be happy to be wrong. I don't know. Maybe you're talking about a pump on the 5-minute time frame, in which case, cool. Different thing. Anyway, speaking about the Church of Prosperity, listen to Far Away Eyes by the Rolling Stones. Sure. Is it a song about the Church of Prosperity? That would be that'd be kind of cool. Aaron says, has AAVE just rejected from 260 and going down again? Well, on something that is, you know, more than likely on a long-term trajectory towards zero, going down is always going to be a good call. Yeah, what do you know? Garbage chart. Yeah, I wouldn't have much hopium for this one, man. I think the high of this rally has already been in as of yesterday's high. I think next move is back down to like 240 or maybe even 225. Is there a chance for a double bottom at 230? I think just like Bitcoin, if you do come back down to these lows, I think you're going to bounce again. Does that bounce? Do I think that something like this is going to bounce back up to, you know, into an uptrend? Significantly less likely than Bitcoin. It'd have to reclaim $300 on a bounce, and I think that's very unlikely, personally. Yeah, I don't really have other strong opinions on this thing. At least it is better chart than most things. At least it's not back down around as like ICO lows or IPO lows, whatever the fuck you want to call it for these things. Yeah. But I can tell you exactly where I get very bullish on it. Again, back above $300. I mean, that's the most obvious one of all time. But in the short term, do I think it's more likely to test these lows? Yeah. Do I think it's likely to bounce here? Yes. Do I think that bounce is guaranteed to get back above $300? No. So yeah, hard one, man. Exactly. LFG, Bitcoin, IREN, Sol. Honestly, IREN's the best one of all of those. Do you use money flow and VRVP in your analysis of Bitcoin? No, I don't. I don't really care about that kind of shit. Can it matter? Sure. If you can create a strategy around it, sure. But again, people are so fucking obsessed with using every different indicator. And honestly, technically speaking, you don't need any indicator to devise a strategy. That's called price action trading. But it all comes down to the same thing. It's your ability to back test based off of objective signals for entry, exits, and risk management. If you can do that, you can make a strategy around anything. Just because I don't use an indicator doesn't mean that you don't have to use it, or it doesn't mean that it's not valuable. Sure, I mean, VR can be very, very valuable. I've used it in the past myself, but it just doesn't have a fit in my current regimen. So yeah. What's up, Martin? He says, hello, Krown. Greetings from the BMNR Church. Can you give us hopium? Well, let's see. God. I mean, at least it's not in a downtrend, so there's that, you know. I think I think you might come back down to like $50 or $49.50 and put in a higher low, but this is still an uptrend objectively. So yeah, there is hopium. I do personally think it will break the trend here and come to the downside, to be honest with you, but that's just my very biased opinion, because I don't really, honestly, I don't really like Tom Lee, and long term, I mean, this chart is just fucking god awful. So a lot of things do point to this area making a lot of sense for a big rejection at $65. That also means if you can start to close monthlies above $65, it's just the price action pivot here. It's actually technically below 65, 64 or 63.80. Then you will have a reversal. But yeah, man, this place makes a lot of sense for a rejection on a lower high. The conservative cat says RCAT rip or dip. Let's check it out, man. I did notice that it did rip the last few days. So let's see where it's at now. Or it's on my other screen here. RCAT $15. Again, full disclosure, I hold this thing. Okay, I'm heavily biased. Blah 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 blah. You get the idea. The problem with this thing is that if it is going to have a pullback, this is the absolute area that makes the most fucking sense for it. Now, did we see that pullback happen on the last 2-week period over here? It's very possible. If we go down to a daily time frame, that does look like an important higher low to me at $13. So I would go as far to say this. I would actually be betting on rip as long as you're above $13. The second you come back down below $13, I'm wrong. I'm very wrong, and this will come down significantly more, like probably below $10 at that point. But for now, I'd give it the benefit of the doubt, especially within the context of the rest of the market. And I do like the monthly higher low right here. I like that you've already retested that prior high. So long term, I would be bullish on it. It's just, does it have a big sizable pullback from here, or is it just that shallow one that we saw to $13 and it's going to be up from there? I'm inclined to say we've already seen it right there, and it may come back down to like 14. But that's not 13, so that doesn't matter. So yeah. All right. King Sock says, Krown, you gay bastard, I love you. I'm wrecked and redacted. We all are, sir. We all are indeed. Per De Jong says, MNT, rip or dip. Again, it's really fucking difficult to play that game when there are no time frames given. Like, is it a 5-minute? Is it a daily? Makes a whole hell of a lot of difference. I don't know. Overall, I mean, it's better than most shitcoins. At least it's made new highs recently, so there's that. I don't know. If I had to call it, I'd think it's coming back down to a 170 first before anything else. But other than that, I just don't have strong opinions on it, man. Let's see. Money flow is giving me hope for the Bitcoin on the hourly. How can you derive hopium from an hourly time frame for like a long-term move? It's like, look, how many fucking hourlies are in a monthly dildo? Too many to count. Okay, there's 24 in a day. 24 times 30 or 31. I don't know. It's too much to do in my head. 600 or 700-ish, somewhere around there. Like, it's not like that's not going to do anything for you. It's not going to do anything for you. There's always going to be a time frame. There's always going to be an indicator. There's always going to be something that confirms your beliefs. But for fuck's sake, if you're looking for hopium for Bitcoin to like genuinely, flip around here, go back to all-time highs, the hourly time frame is not the one to start with. You want to be looking at like the daily. Yeah, man. But I don't know. Do we see hopium on an hourly? Not really. It's a fucking downtrend, man. I think still you're more likely to test these lows here and then bounce if you're going to get a bounce. Somewhere around there. I don't know, 110. It's a nice round even number. Beautiful. What's up, Mr. Swanee? Better late than never. How you doing, man? Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Got to have you back on the channel soon, man. I look at the 15-minute for my macro. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, don't know about that one. I don't have much faith in such time frames for the long term. But yeah, man. Billy Bombat says, howdy, Mr. K. What's up, man? What is your thought on UURAF, rare earths? I think rare earths are a really good narrative play recently, and I do hold some rare earths. So full disclosure, I can be quite biased on these things, but this is an OTC thing. I have no exposure to this. Overall, man, I actually do think that this is good. Making new all-time highs is never going to be a bad thing. Do I think you're going to pull back first? Yes, this is an obvious reversal on the weekly, but I think it's going to reverse into a higher low. So if it comes back down to like $3.50, yeah, that's a big pullback, but it is a higher low nonetheless. And on top of that, On top of that, I think that there's a lot of good reasons to be looking for a big pullback here. You got extreme volatility reads on the weekly time frame, and while you don't have bearish divergence on the weekly time frame, you do have the highest RSI read you've ever had ever, and just a generally high one. I mean, very rarely do you see the weekly get into like the 90s, but this one is in the 90s right now. So I think you're getting your first pullback after new all-time highs. It's very likely to be a higher low, but it's going to take some time to shake itself out. I think the fun times are done for a while. Let's see. Super Googly Lee says, how do you deal with your long-term spot holds? I just buy them and then leave them. It's actually very simple. Even if it goes up forever, should I sell some Bitcoin bought at 3,000 and Ethereum bought at 100 some point? I have no intention of leaving money for my kids because I have none. Well, I mean, you obviously could sell some, but I think the better way to do things is if they really are long-term holds, is just take out loans using those as collateral. That's how I do that. And I wouldn't take out big loans using them as collateral. Like let's say you can get 70% loan to value, with however many coins you got. Maybe I'd take out like fucking 30%, on that, assuming that you have a lot, and that's going to fund you for a while. If you just want to take out some liquidity, that way you're not going to pay taxes because a loan you don't get taxed on. You just have to pay the interest fees on your loan. And I assume if you haven't already been doing this, you probably have external income coming in from somewhere. So you can just use that to pay for that. And you could do the buy, borrow, die method if you really wanted, I suppose. But yeah, as far as my spot holdings, I leave them. If I say I'm going to buy Bitcoin and I'm not going to even think about touching it until, 5 or 10 years down the road, let's say just 2030, for an example, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to trade around it. Okay. I leave my trading account for trading around, my long-term spot holdings. That's what they're there for. I don't need that liquidity right now. And I've just resolved that is the way that I prefer to do things for that. But my trading account, sure, I'll hedge that off if I think that big downside moves are coming, sure. But I'm not gonna fuck with the long-term holdings because I found that whenever I've done that in the past, it just has never been optimal. So stick with the plan. Yeah, it's not optimal. Yeah, if you ideally wanted to cover them, I mean, you could, but I think if the question is more or less about accessing liquidity, I think the answer to that is just take out a loan versus it. Use your Bitcoins as collateral, something like that, man. Anyways, let's see. Brandon G says, in 2021, I smoked pot and I'd listen to some epic space travel, deep thought music and stare at Bitcoin chart, peering deep inside the matrix, only to find it looking back at me. I feel like many people have done that by trying to look in the order book. Taking some acid and then looking at the order book. Many good men have been lost doing this. Probably. Yes, I literally just did it actually. Benny Crypto says Ethereum rejected at 4,100. Oh, Diddy, what in the Trump dump is this, Krown? Well, just as I promised you, the rally that you were very confident about is not guaranteed. This one's more likely to come down, man. The trend is your friend. Rejections are your friend. Just let it come down. Let her come down. Let the old Ethereum shitcoins come down. It's all good. CRO is a typical scam coin. I mean, that is par for the course in this space, isn't it? Right? Kronos. It'll cure your blindness. Yeah, this one's also coming down as well. I mean, all of these things want to come back down. I mean, I think this one's coming back down like 14 or 15 cents, something like that, man. But yeah, it's just, I mean, look, this thing's on a long-term trend towards zero. Like, betting on downside's never difficult. It's like betting on upside for Bitcoin. If you fast forward a few years, probably going to be up. Fast forward a few years on shitcoins, probably going to be down. Anti-Pro says SEI 4 hour daily. I'm sure it's going to be great, so let's check it out. Let's see. Whoops, I typed in SEO, my bad. All right, I am the redact. Down. Wow, amazing. Yes, a chart that literally has only ever gone down is going down again. I'm surprised. But I donated to the Church of Prosperity, and they told me that if I buy the SEI coins, it'll go up 10x, and it'll come back to me in many folds. But instead, I am losing many folds. What do now? Donate more. Donate more. You just didn't buy enough, man. You just didn't believe hard enough. That's your issue. Yeah, man. Color me surprised when a fucking chart that only has ever gone down is going down. Amazing. What's your opinion on Zen with a bunch of emoticon bullshits, says Pablo. Wow. Amazing. It's a great chart, bro. Buy it all, 100x leverage. Don't use a stop loss. Make sure to do that last part specifically. If there never was a better place for another lower high, this would be it. What's AVAX going down to chart? What's AVAX going down to chart? What down chart AVAX chart go? I don't fucking understand what the hell you're saying. Do I think it's going down? I think that's maybe what you're saying. Yes. Do I think it's coming back down to this low here at $20 or $20.50? Yes. Do I think it can go lower? Again, we have a chart that's only ever gone down. So I'm going to bet on a reversal. That's right. I think this is the moment, guys. This is the real moment where your AVAX coins are going to make you rich. That's right. Everything that you believed before with AVAX going to $100, no, $200, no, $500 is true. And it's happening at this exact moment. For the first time in history, you are going to witness a real uptrend on AVAX. That's right, because they have partnerships with other crypto companies that have absolutely no revenues as well themselves and probably aren't even used by more than 2 people, especially for the actual, use case that this thing actually wants to be used for. But I know from reading the white paper that this is a really good project with a really strong team. Amazing. Yes. Also, another rejection at the 200 symbol, but that's just a bunch of whale nonsense. Haha. They're trying to trick you into selling your AVAX coins low. Don't let them steal your AVAX coins low. This thing is on the verge. It's, in fact, literally going up right now. If you can't see through the sarcasm, then invest in my Church of Prosperity, okay? Send me $1,000, I send you 10,000 back. It's good, man. Really great chart. Really great chart. Rather not say, says, good sir, how many strats do you employ at any one time? I mean, in the past when I've been more active, no more than 2. And honestly, at this point, I play out 1. And it's a super simple one. And it's not glorious in any way, shape, or form, but it does get the big Bitcoin moves. And it's that 5-day 5 EMA strategy. It's a slight offshoot of that. But if you look at that one, it's very, 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 very close. So super simple, man. That's all that I'm really trying to do at this point, It's really all that I'm trying to do. I just took a loss in it as well. Small loss, but I did take a loss. Actually, really good example of, of this strategy right here. It's like when you do take losses, not going to be absolutely massive. It keeps you in the game. That's the idea. It keeps you in the game until you get the big ones. Chris Vela says TAI. They all not going to make it. Tank me. Tank me. I like it. All right, we'll do these last couple ones, then we'll call it a day. Down to Goblin Town. TAI, okay, I'm sure it's going to be great, man. Any hope on the daily and weekly? It's always a great way to start off a request. Yeah, bro. Oh, yeah, there's hope. There's a lot of hope for this thing. Yep, this thing's going to be going up any moment, okay? You just have to believe, all right? That is the single most important thing, is to believe it's going to be going up, because hodlers will be rewarded. That's right. Markets care more about rewarding your loyalty. You must be loyal for your coins to go up. If your coin is not going up enough, you are not loyal, okay? All right, have you said 10 hail ties today, this morning? No? Do you really believe? Do you really believe? Do you really believe? I believe. Yeah, man. Is there any hope? There's always hope, but the probability assigned to hope on this thing is not very high. It's quite low, I think. I think you're a lot more likely to continue on with their long-term trend, which has only and ever been to the downside. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Tag me. Tang me. They're all not going to make it. I fucking love that one, man. That was a good one. What do you hold? Just Bitcoin at the moment? Bitcoin and stonks. Kathy says, Krown, from a timing standpoint, what are your thoughts on the past Bitcoin cycles having 152 weeks? Meanwhile, we are at, currently, I think you mean 152 weeks in the cycle. I guess look, if you believe that the 4-year cycle is true and valid, then then you have to run with that. I mean, I'm not going to say it's wrong or right because only time will tell, and I'm not personally ready to lean into either which way. In fact, it's not that I'm ready to lean into either which way. It's just I'm going to always lean with the current side of the trend, which is still to the upside for Bitcoin. So I'm still viewing this first and foremost as another potential long-term sideways consolidation, which probably takes, another month or two and probably does imply some more downside. But I'm not, I wouldn't just blindly say, okay, yeah, mark cycle over based off that. Now, if you want to go through by the 4-year cycle, I think that's valid. I think that's a fine presumption to have because if you have been running with that, well, guess what? That means you also probably bought close to these lows over here. So you bought close to these lows over here and you're getting bearish over here. I think that's completely relevant as well. You made a fucking great investment. You made a great trade. Like, there's nothing wrong with that at all. So I'd want to entertain that perspective. And to be fair, the 4-year cycle has not been broken officially yet, and it won't be broken until it's actually broken. So it'll only be in hindsight that we will know. So it won't really be helpful, to be honest with you. So I don't blame anyone for leaning into that. I think it's completely valid. I'm just not leaning into it myself at this moment because I do feel like this cycle has been objectively different in the way that we've seen Bitcoin move to the upside with these very, very long-form consolidations resulting in new highs, which is just uncharacteristic of prior cycles. So to me, I think it's more likely that 4-year cycle is over. But look, I'm more likely to be wrong on that than people thinking that the 4-year cycle is still valid because it hasn't been broken yet, to be fair. And well, the trend is your friend. So, I'm breaking my own rule there, to be fair. All right, Swanee. We'll do Swanee and then we'll do Nearest Art. Gotta speak with Swanee, man. CoreWeave, yeah, let's check out CoreWeave. This one actually has been requested so many times in prior streams, but not in today's stream. I haven't really been watching it too much myself. Overall, I do think that this one has higher to go, to be honest with you. And I actually think in the short term, it's going to try actually again to the upside as well. I see hidden bullish divergence here. I see just a general uptrend. I think that bearish divergence already played out and you just got a higher low. I think this one's more likely to pop back up towards 150, 152, actually. And then if it does, one domino leads to the next, right? And if it starts to really trade above 150, I don't really see any reason why it's not going to be going back up to these highs over here. And this is the right market environment for these things to be happening. I mean, we've seen all of the big parabolic moves to the upside happen in traditional markets. So why not this thing? If you're going to be throwing darts at charts, you might as well throw them at charts like this rather than, crypto shitcoins. All right, Aaron says, one last thing, Krown. Just tell us once more how shitty does the others.D dominance look? I don't know. I haven't really looked at it myself, man. It might look great. I don't fucking know. All right, others. Well, on the weekly, it's pretty bad. It is pretty bad. Monthly, I mean, it's just a general downtrend, right? Weekly time frame. The question to me would be, do you get one more bounce off of retesting this low, or is it just down? That I don't know. The long term is down. Do you get another bounce here or not? I'm more inclined to say you do get another bounce here, somewhere around that 680 number. But I don't really have strong opinions on it. My strong opinion is on long-term down. Samir says, you think there's alt season in Czech Aerodrome? Do I think there's alt season? Yeah. And I also see pigs flying outside of my window. Aerodrome. Alt season is here, bro. Case in point. Don't you know? Alt season is when all of your alts go to zero. It's amazing. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I see it, man. I think this chart's a lot more likely to come back down to these lows here at 50 cents than it is to go back above $1.50. But I do think you're going to get another bounce off of like 80 cents or so. I don't think it's going to like really trade significantly to new lows from here. Maybe it looks something like this. Boom, boom, and then down. Obviously, the LARP lines over here are not correct. This LARP line, very correct, though. This LARP line, correct. Can't win them all. Yeah. Lower high, a lower monthly high. The most bullish thing you can get. The most bullish thing you can get. All right. Chart the pigs fly. All good. Hey, man, Swanee, it was really, really good to see you, man. Yeah, I think we're going to sign off on that note. Apologies for the extra sarcasm today. if you couldn't read through it, look, I don't hate anyone or even dog anyone for choosing, what investments or where you want to invest in all this sort of shit. That that's up to you. Just having a little bit of fun. But of course, as always, I will hate a shitty chart if I do think that it's a shitty chart. I can always be wrong on these sort of things. So, as always, do your own research. But yeah, most of these things really do look like they are generally just playing out their long-term trend mound. So what do I think about alt season? I think alt season, again, is in traditional market stocks, and everyone's so fucking focused on these crypto shitcoins, which are, they are just really garbage, honestly. And missing, the easy moves or the easier moves. Like if I'm gonna be throwing darts at charts, I'm gonna go throw darts in traditional markets. I'm not gonna throw darts in cryptocurrency land. So yeah, that's just my opinion. Again, I can be massively wrong about this. And at some point, a lot of these things will get some pretty big bounces, but I suspect that all of them will bounce into lower highs, or the overwhelming majority will bounce into lower highs and then continue on with their long-term mega massive macro downtrends, which have never been broken since the dawn of time. And that is where we shall end things for today. A nice and positive message to end off this lovely stream. I love you guys. I love everyone here. I even love some of these charts, but not these shitcoin charts, that's for sure. Anyways, we'll be signing off on that note. We'll be back on tomorrow with another regular video analysis and, of course, another live stream on Friday. Like I said, I've been really, really enjoying these live streams. I really enjoy the community here and the community engagement. It makes these things so fucking fun. These streams fly by like I can't believe 2 hours just goes by like the snap of a Nicholas Merden's fingers. And yeah, we'll continue on with the party on Friday. Just a regular video for tomorrow. Other than that, all the best as always. Take care. Much love.